a chain of volcanic peaks rising out of a 2,000-mile void of open ocean, topped not with grass and palm fronds, but with rows of heavy artillery batteries and rows of sugarcane guarded by private armies. For over 1,000 years, this was the most isolated, self-sustaining human ecosystem on the planet. An empire built by master navigators who crossed empty seas using only the stars and bird flight paths. Then, in less than a century, a sovereign kingdom the size of a European nation was systematically dismantled, its queen imprisoned in her own palace, and its identity rewritten into a vacation postcard. You will see how an ancient Polynesian paradise survived by seafaring genius, how a web of sugar barons engineered a bloodless corporate coup, and how a midnight annexation erased a throne. How did a peaceful island kingdom become America's 50th state? And how did a culture of absolute sovereignty lose its home in broad daylight? Using AI trained on historical records, royal oil paintings, and archival glass plate photographs, we are rebuilding all of it. This is that story. It starts 1,000 years ago, with double-hulled canoes breaching a silent horizon at 1000 AD. It starts 1,000 years ago with double-hulled canoes breaching a silent horizon at 1000 AD. These islands sat more than 2,000 miles away from the nearest continent, completely cut off from the rest of the world. Sheer volcanic cliffs dropped straight into deep blue water, and isolated microclimates trapped people in a fragile web of land and sea. To survive without running out of food, early families invented a brilliant system called the ahupua, a slice of land running from the mountain peaks down to the ocean coral reefs, ensuring every village had fresh water, timber, and fish. According to ancient voyaging chants, the first people arrived by steering massive twin-hulled canoes across thousands of miles of empty ocean, tracking only the stars and the flight paths of birds against impossible odds. Once on land, early high chiefs and leaders like Pauemahu set up strict laws called the kapu. Break a sacred rule, and the punishment was instant death, keeping society in exact balance so the islands would not run out of food. Centuries later, that fragile balance shattered. In 1795, a fierce district chief named Kamehameha used iron weapons traded from foreign ships to launch a brutal campaign. Pushing rival armies off the steep cliffs of Oahu, he united all the islands under one single crown through pure iron will and Western muskets. Yet, even as one king ruled the peaks, the strict rules of the kapu began to crack under the pressure of finite land and starving populations. What happens when European steel and disease collide with a Stone Age paradise? In 1778, Captain James Cook dropped anchor at Waimea Bay, trading iron nails for fresh water while unknowingly unleashing invisible pathogens that wiped out a huge portion of the island population within a single generation. By 1810, King Kamehameha finished his bloody conquest, uniting every single island under one strict royal crown. Then came 1819, when Queen Kahumanu and young King Liholiho sat down to a public feast with women, breaking the ancient kapu laws forever and leaving a total spiritual void across the valleys. In 1820, the first New England Protestant missionaries stepped off their ships, carrying printing presses, high-collared clothes, and a strict moral code that quietly began to rewrite how the islands were run. Down in the crowded port of Lahaina, an ordinary native laborer wrote in his journal about watching his ancestors' sacred hula dances banned, while foreign merchant ships filled the harbor with whiskey and money ledgers. To keep up with global markets, plantation owners dug long water flumes and deep irrigation ditches across the green hillsides, intended to feed cash crops, but destined to drain the lifeblood straight out of native taro fields. In 1848, the government pushed through a law called the Great Mahele, promising to give land titles to ordinary native families. Instead, confusing paperwork and clever foreign speculators allowed outsiders to buy up millions of acres of prime soil for pennies. Through every trade deal and royal decree, the kingdom fought to survive on the world stage, officially winning full recognition as a sovereign nation from both Britain and France in 1843. Yet, behind the royal flags and booming cannons, a quiet threat waited in the halls of Washington, D.C., where a new sugar tariff threatened to crush the islands unless they handed over control. King Kalākaua brought back banned hula dances, traveled around the entire globe to build alliances, and built the magnificent Iolani Palace in 1882, complete with the first electric lights in the entire Pacific Ocean, projecting a proud, modern Polynesian sovereignty to the world. Then came 1887, when a secret group of armed white businessmen called the Annexation Club forced the king at gunpoint to sign the Bayonet Constitution, stripping him of his power and giving voting rights only to wealthy foreigners. Behind this plot stood a ruthless sugar tycoon named Lawrence Thurston, who cared nothing for native crowns or royal traditions. In January 1893, Queen Liliuokalani stood completely alone inside Iolani Palace, while fully armed U.S. Marines landed from the warship USS Boston to back the local rebels. Outnumbered and desperate to protect her people from immediate slaughter, she signed a paper yielding her crown, writing that she did so only to avoid the loss of life. That single stroke of a pen ended absolute native self-rule forever, replacing a 1,000-year monarchy with a greedy corporate dictatorship backed by foreign guns. The smoke of the coup cleared over Honolulu Harbor, revealing a provisional government flying foreign stars and stripes right where the royal standard once stood, setting the stage for a fight over what remained of a stolen island home. Disease wiped out 90% of the native population within generations, while schools banned the Hawaiian language and foreign powers stripped away every shred of national sovereignty. Yet, despite total devastation, ancient hula dances survived in secret underground circles, traditional ocean voyaging rose from the ashes, and the deep spirit of aloha endured against all odds. Today, modern Hawaii pulls in billions of dollars every year from global tourism and hosts massive strategic military bases, yet it sits directly on top of an unresolved historical crime where local sovereignty groups still fight for self-determination. Those deep water flumes and irrigation ditches planted long ago did more than just steal fresh water from the green valleys to feed foreign cash crops. They diverted native life away from the land, mirroring the exact way political power was ripped away from the royal throne. They came looking for a port, stayed for sugar, and took a nation, leaving behind a paradise that remembers every word of the kingdom it used to be. If this hidden history changed how you see the Pacific, hit subscribe and ring the bell for more untold stories. History isn't past, it's just waiting to be uncovered.